You don't have to live with pain or chronic neuro issues any longer. In this podcast, you will learn how to stabilize your brain, body, and biochemistry for the rest of your life. I'm Dr. Teams, and this is the NeuroReset podcast. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the NeuroReset podcast. I'm Dr. Teams. We're here at Desert Brain and Spine after a long, fun week. We are here with Toby. Toby has been dealing with POTS and POTS-related symptoms, but I won't do it justice. I just know we got to work together for a week in one of our neurointensives, and I think we had a pretty cool outcome. But you know, let's let Toby tell her story. So welcome, Toby. Thank you so much for doing this. I know I twisted your arm to be here, but let's tell people what it's like having POTS.
Okay, thank you so much. Hi, everyone. So technically, it started like 4 years ago. It started in pregnancy, and after delivery, it got really bad. And
What got bad?
How bad?
No, what got bad? What were you feeling?
So I was extremely dizzy. I felt like I'm gonna faint and like fall, mainly throughout the day. So I was sitting all the time, and I was anxious too because I just didn't know what's going on.
Sure, absolutely. I believe that. So had your kiddo, by the way, I just saw that video swimming around like a little brave kiddo. So let's fast forward a little bit. So let's say the next 6 to 12 months after having your kiddo, what did that look like? What did your life feel like?
My life literally like turned around because I felt helpless.
In what way?
I felt like, what's the point? Like, I can't live like this. I have this little one, but I can't take care of it. So I had to quit. I stopped my job. I was home all day, mainly like sitting. My husband helped me out with like all the house work. It was really, really hard.
What was like, gosh, what were the symptoms that you were dealing with that made you not be able to live life the way you wanted?
So the number one symptom was feeling like falling and faint. And then I had a lot of fatigue, heart palpitations. Those were like the three main symptoms.
When you were going through this, were you in any of the other like groups with moms, like with newborns or anything like that? And did they?
A lot of my friends had babies. I had one close friend had a baby like 3 days apart with me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and she was like cool as a pickle, and I was like, I can't do anything. And she was like back on her feet and going to the grocery and everything. So obviously I started running around to doctors, and my OB kept on telling me like, you're fine. Like, blood work is normal.
Okay.
It's in your head.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, they're not wrong. It's neurological, right? So it's in your head,
Oh,
but not the way they were probably implying.
Right. That made me feel even like worse. Like, it's in my head. Like, seriously. I used to like be able to run, do gymnastics. I loved exercising. But yeah, after like 6 months, I just started being my own doctor, and like I was Googling for like days, and I couldn't figure it out. But like after maybe like 8 months after my baby, my sister like brought me an article, and it described someone like having POTS after delivery. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I have it. So that's when I started Googling POTS, and I was like, And I didn't feel so confident because I'm like, maybe I'm just like imagining that I have it. You know, like when you read a story, you're like, I think I have all these symptoms, right? So I did call them up. Like they had a contact, like an email thing. And I just scheduled an appointment with a cardiologist. And I did a tilt table test and another few scans. And she told me I have POTS.
What did that feel like when you found that out?
It felt really good.
Interesting. So it felt good because you finally knew?
Yeah.
Okay. What was the course of action that they originally wanted you to take?
My cardiologist. So she recommended like lots of salt, fluid, just like drink a lot. I think like shit, 2 gallons a day, and compressions. And she wanted to see how I feel. And after like a little bit, she wanted to put me on meds.
Why did she want to do that? Was the other stuff working?
No.
Okay. So you're basically just waterboarding yourself with salt water.
Yeah.
You're putting these compression stockings on.
I just put it on for like a couple of days because they were so uncomfortable.
Yeah, gotcha. So can I take a second to try to describe what you kind of went through on the medical side? So what she did was called a tilt table test. So basically they put you flat on a table. They hook you up to all these monitors that measure heart rate, blood pressure, all these things. And when they tilt you up, maybe say 5 degrees at a time, 10 degrees at a time, whatever it may be, and then they sit you there and they see if your heart rate goes up. They're basically moving you in different positions to see if your heart rate basically jumps way up. I think the diagnostic criteria used to be 30 beats a minute. It might be a little higher now, but if you have an increase from your resting, lying, to your standing or upright, you have a positive tilt table test, right? And then there might be some other things that they do, but generally, if you have POTS, or if you have POTS-like symptoms, everybody has the risk of failing that tilt table test, right? So then we've got to treat that person like a POTS patient. Typically, if you have POTS and you're testing positive on a tilt table test, you're going to be a little more severe of a case. A lot of people deal with all the same types of symptoms, maybe to just a lesser degree, like a lesser intensity, and there's no answer for them because all these tests are normal.
Right.
Could you imagine if you went there and they said, no, you're normal. This is a negative test.
I would feel awful.
Like lost almost,
Yeah.
right? And that's where a lot of our patients end up. They're like, I'm at the end of the road. I don't know what's going on. Nobody can diagnose me, but I know something's happening.
Right.
And that's where I try to help them understand, hey, you're not diagnosable, but you're not healthy. You're right here in the gray area, and that's where we do our best work.
Yeah.
And so for anybody that fails a tilt table test and you're normal, but you're not normal, like maybe give us a call. We'll have a talk. But going back to you have this answer. You finally feel great. You're like, okay, cool. They give you stockings, they give you salt, they give you water. Doesn't work. Next up is medications. How did that feel? Did that work? Did it make you feel better? Obviously, it didn't fix the problem, or else you wouldn't have been here. But what was that like going through the meds?
I didn't take it.
Cool. Didn't even try it? Interesting. So what did you do instead?
So honestly, I didn't feel like meds is the answer because I wasn't going to stay on meds my entire life. I was like 21 at the time. And I was like, I want to live and be healthy. So why should I just cover up?
Yeah. So 21 years old, just had your first kid, feeling like your life's over. Here's your meds for the rest of your life. And you're like, this is not the answer. What did you find as part of your journey? Because it's been a 4-year journey before we met, right? What are some things that you did that helped you along the way? Like, we'll talk about diet, because I know that's a big part. Maybe even the bakery stuff and how it's good but not bad, or bad but good, right? But tell me about that journey. What was that like? What's kind of the first thing you tried after being prescribed meds and not taking them?
So it was a big one. I was trying to I really wasn't sure what route to go. So I was like pulling through. And after a little bit, I met one doctor. It's called the Pop Treatment Center in Texas, Dallas. And I did like a online program, which was pretty intense. Took like 3.5 hours every day. And I'm saying my baby was at my mom. And that went on for like almost 4 weeks. And I didn't really feel like I was doing really good on it because I told her, okay, like I felt my heart palpitations was a little better, but she prescribed tons of supplements. And I was like, I'm saying I was able to like get back onto my feet like 10 to 15% because we did breathing and stuff. But my dizziness, my main symptom, stayed like the entire time.
Yeah. And that was dizziness is the same as that feeling of falling, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So a lot of people, they describe vertigo as like dizziness, right? So if I'm going to kind of delineate these, vertigo is like a true spin. It's almost always brought on by a positional change, like rolling over in bed, looking up real high. That's more of like a benign positional vertigo. And that's pretty easily treated with a head positioning maneuver. So you didn't have that.
No, it's more like rocking on a boat. Like feeling like I'm falling. Not the room.
Not like to the left or to the right, like kind of straight down.
Straight
right?
down.
Like the elevator drops out from
Yeah.
under you.
So honestly, I paid a lot for that program. And I was like pushing it to like keep trying. So I'm saying again, it worked a little bit. And then I decided, let me just start walking every day.
Okay.
30 minutes a day.
Okay.
Got a little better. It was really, really hard to walk. But I pushed myself. And again, after like a little bit, I felt like I didn't get the answer yet. So I think the next step I did, I was like watching lots of videos and stuff, how like girls were trying to heal POTS. I decided, okay, diet. I was like on a very poor diet.
Yeah. Would the very poor diet look anything like the standard American diet?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. We can go into detail on that later, right? I mean, we can hit it right now. Like, what were you eating on a regular basis? Like, what did breakfast look like?
Bagel, like coffee, chocolate, bagel,
Okay.
egg.
Lunch.
Lunch, same thing.
Okay. Dinner.
Dinner, lots of potatoes, either like I'm saying meat or pizza, fries.
So lots of carbs.
Yeah,
right?
lots of
We know
carbs.
that carbs they're great. We also know that sugar is what carbs turn into. Really, all food turns into, but carbs specifically can happen quickly, especially white breads and especially white potatoes, stuff like that. That can turn into sugar really quickly, and our brain has a faster response or more intense response to sugar than it does things like drugs, like cocaine. It's more addictive than like drugs.
Right.
And so you didn't have any idea. You're like, there's no way it's the food because I love my food.
Yeah.
Right? So what was a turning point? So you're like, let's look into the food. Where did you go with that? What kind of food stuff did you do that helped?
So I technically went fully vegan. So I started like celery juice in the morning. Then I did like a fruit smoothie for breakfast. Lunch is mainly like a salad and chickpeas, like a small protein.
Yeah.
Dinner, same thing as lunch.
Cool.
Mainly.
And how long did you do that before you really started seeing some results?
Like 6 months.
6 months? Okay.
I'm saying I saw obviously some results, but like for the body to like regenerate, it took quite a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in a way, you were not so much in a healing state, and by changing your diet, you started putting yourself into a little bit of a healing state.
Right.
Right? Body's designed to heal. It's not designed to feel good all the time. But the cool thing is you're able to figure this out on your own, which was nice. But it would have been nicer if somebody told you earlier on.
Right.
Right.
But I definitely, like, in that period, it felt good. I felt, like, vibrant.
Mm-hmm.
So even though I wasn't, like, technically not feeling dizzy anymore,
Yeah.
I was still, I was feeling good with myself.
Good.
Yeah.
So what caused you to keep looking for stuff, right? Where were you in that functional level after that 6 months?
It was like 35%.
Where did that come up from? What percentage were you in the very beginning?
5.
5% function.
Yeah.
Up to 35%. And how long? 6 to 8 months? A year?
A year and a half by then.
Okay, so that was a year and a half. So we're a year and a half into a 4-year trip. Tell me the next steps.
So I was like really good at the diet for like 2 years. Very like really, really religious. And then I was like, nope, still not. So the next step I did was...
Are you looking at me?
I can't remember.
Oh, okay. I was like, she's giving me this funny look over here. I was like, was it me? Do I talk now? All right. Well, let's kind of jog your memory. Did you go through exercise, physical exercise? When did you start doing like swimming and stuff?
That was like recently.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I did. I saw Texas. Oh, Nemechek. Okay.
Oh yeah, the Nemechek.
Yeah.
That's local here in Arizona, right?
Yeah. So it's like it was like a 2.5 years until then. Okay. I met him like a year and a half ago. Okay, that equals out. Yeah.
Okay. So the Nemechek protocol, what was that like?
So that's mainly like a protocol to restore your gut.
Okay. Is there vagal nerve stuff with that too?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I was mainly put on like lots of omega-3 every day, rifaximin, and I had to do
Did you do any garlic?
no, olive oil, extra virgin olive oil. So those 3 protocols I did for quite a while.
Okay.
I felt pretty good. But like the summertime came around, I fell back like completely.
Is this in New York or here in Arizona?
In Arizona.
Right. So if people don't know, Arizona is hotter than hell in the summer. And if it was on to at least last year, every single one of our patients that dealt with dysautonomia had major flares all summer long.
Yeah.
It was so hot.
Yeah.
It was like 115 degrees for over like 40 days in a row. Even us without dysautonomia felt like crap because it was so freaking hot.
Right.
So one of the things that people with dysautonomia and POTS deal with is an inability to control temperature. Right? Temperature changes, to tolerate that. Usually cold isn't so bad, but when it gets real cold, people get like that Raynaud's type of symptoms. So their hands can turn red, fingers can go numb, stuff like that. They can get tingly sometimes. And then on the flip side, the heat is so hot that your vessels like dilate and you can't get any pressure to get blood anywhere. So you get brain foggy, you get exhausted, you get headaches a lot of times with that. In your case, probably dizzy.
Oh, yeah. It was like...
Yeah, dizzy and brain fog usually go hand in hand, but that dizzy is usually a lack of blood flow to the front part of the brain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't do anything. Couldn't go out. Like, nothing.
So we've gone through the stockings. We've gone through the salt. We've changed our diet. We went vegan. Are you still vegan?
Mainly.
Mainly? Cool.
Yeah.
So we're sticking to the diet. And then we add in a bunch of supplementation and other natural foods and things like that. Rifaximin is usually one of those protocol that's prescription-based.
Right.
And it's usually prescribed as a potential component for stuff like SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And so that's a tougher one to get your hands on usually. Usually you have to go through some kind of natural practitioner that's going to be able to help you with that. So I think they assumed you had SIBO, or it's just part of their protocol, or did they test for it?
Yeah.
So
it's part of the protocol. Yeah.
So So we've got that. So we worked with the gut. Like when the brain doesn't work, we know the gut doesn't work,
Right.
It's called the brain-gut axis. And so if that's not working, that stinks. We also know that brain-gut axis is part of that parasympathetic or rest and digest component, right?
Right.
The other side is the fight or flight. That's the one that's develops when we're fearful of what the heck is going to happen to the rest of my life, right?
Yeah.
It's where anxiety comes from. It's what creates a lot of brain fog and indecision and worry and insomnia and stuff like that. And so they were working on that part of that fight or flight system, right?
Yeah.
So you worked with them. I assume that helped to some degree.
It did.
Okay. Where would we be at the end of that as far as function?
Like 50.
Okay. So 35 to 50. What was next?
So honestly, like after the summer, I fell back, I said. So really, I was feeling really good, like when I was on the protocol, but I fell back like a little bit. And then I just like gave up on it. So I'm saying I'm still taking omega-3 daily,
Yeah.
but I was like back at like 40% after that.
Okay. So what's next?
So then I decided, I was like my own doctor Googling because,
We call it Google University.
yeah,
Yeah.
something like that. I was just like, so I decided I'm going to try just a local chiropractor.
Mm-hmm.
So he told me, yeah, of course, we can heal POTS and just like a subluxation.
Okay.
So I'm like, cool, okay, let's do it. He did some x-rays and he showed me like where I'm subluxated, like on top, like by my neck area. And I'm like, okay, go for it. I like did a full year plan.
A full year?
Like I signed up for like a full year.
Okay.
And I went like religiously 3 times a week. I felt my heart palpitations was really good, but still like this feeling of like falling when I'm standing, it's still there.
Yeah.
So I knew like my POTS is not, it's not gone.
So we're addressing all these what I call pillars of health, right? We're addressing food. We're addressing supplementation, inflammation. We're addressing gut. We're addressing spinal health. And we're still not all the way healed.
Right.
So, I mean, being a chiropractor, obviously, I'm like, yeah, absolutely, give chiropractic a shot. If it's a big piece of the puzzle, it'll have a huge impact.
Yeah.
Right. What kind of impact did that have? I mean, got rid of palpitations.
It was really good.
Yeah.
Like 20%.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I'm doing it for like a couple of months. So, yeah, not bad.
And that was, just recently started that a few months ago?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So they'll keep you stable and keep you moving forward. Yeah, that's great. So then what caused you to call us? Because I figure I'm the next step.
Yeah. So, honestly, I was like, I want to just be over with it and just live my life again. So, back to Google, and I was like, hey, you guys have like an awesome POTS, like, it had like a short video, and it's like, it makes so much sense because I have like a lot of knowledge, and I can see like, is this doctor like really talking on like, you know.
I know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I watched like a couple of videos, and I'm like, I think I got it. That's it. Reached out, and I'm like, she was super nice.
Is that Kathy?
Kathy.
Yeah.
Kathy was like really
And we'll
sweet.
we'll introduce you guys to Kathy. We'll get her on the podcast here at some point. She's reluctant, but we'll get her on here. We'll trick her.
She was awesome, and I scheduled like to come out, I think.
Well, we had a phone call.
Oh, yeah. And then we had a good phone call. So I'm like, you know what? Let's do the phone call. And I'm like, okay, this doctor really knows what he's talking about. And that's it.
What was it about our conversation that helped you understand that I do have an idea of what's going on?
Because you were explaining how like the brain and the spine and the eyes. Everything like interacts with each other. So I felt like I can't remember. Oh, you told me like I'm like technically not in space. My body is like flying around.
Yeah. When you don't know where you are in space, your brain freaks out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I ended up reaching out to like someone that did this program before.
Oh, yeah. Was that Allie?
Allie.
She was also on the podcast.
Oh,
She
yeah.
had just done the podcast when you'd called. So she's going to air in probably the next month or so.
So I spoke with her, and she literally had the same symptoms. So I'm like, cool. And because honestly, I wanted to try some other protocols like a year or two ago, and the doctors would not give out any they wouldn't like give out any information like if I can like reach out to someone that did the program in the past.
I mean, there's certainly HIPAA stuff going on, but we talked to that patient. We're like, she just happened to be there when you had called. Hey, would you mind, and what's really cool is that person that did that podcast already helped somebody.
Yeah.
That's the best part, because you probably wouldn't have come or even taken the phone call until you talked with her.
Right.
So thank you, Allie. I appreciate that.
And no, I'm saying like I felt like the doctors were like a bit like they didn't really have anyone with that specific like dizziness or they just wanted another patient,
Yeah.
So it was very cool. I liked it.
So then you show up and we do what's called an intensive, right? So you came in, you flew in from New York to Arizona. We started working on Monday, and then we finished up on Thursday, just, I don't know, hour ago. First, tell them, well, if you could, please share your experience. What was it like? Was it a good or bad experience?
100%. Like, couldn't have been better. First, like, the vibe is like, oh my gosh, it's so much fun.
Well, I credit that to everybody else. I don't know how much fun I am, but
No, you are super, like, I'm telling you, I told my husband, like, I love coming in here. It's on vacation, like, but, like, it's not, like, depressing, like those kinds of offices where it's just fun. Music in the background, like.
Did you feel like a patient while you were here?
Oh, yeah. Like, 100%. Every patient is, like, a person, It's not, like, another number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So what did we do? What did we do that was different?
So I loved the first day where we did all the testing and stuff, and I was able to see it live, and I loved that part. And technically, literally, just like treating those issues, specifically to like my own body.
Yeah. So what she's describing is we do an eye test, a balance test, and like an interactive metronome type of test. The reason we test the eyes are the only sensory organ that allow us to really read the entire brain, front of the brain, back of the brain, sides of the brain, brainstem, cerebellum, vestibular system. All of that's important to you because you felt like you were falling and your brain didn't know where you were in space.
Right.
When we went through some of that testing, we're like, hey, look here, see how this line is going here when it should be here with that green line? And that's one of the reasons you don't feel stable. As we go through it, you remember when we first looked at it, your system started stressing so much, and it like fogged up our device, and we couldn't even see your eyes. I was like, well, that's a tell right there. Her nervous system was just so into that fight or flight mode that every time it did that, it wasn't getting blood flow to the front part of the brain or the balance part, and the next thing you know, she feels like she's dizzy, right? Mm-hmm. We checked the balance. In the beginning, we do eyes open, eyes closed, and we move your head around and stuff like that. But very strangely, you couldn't keep your eyes closed. Why couldn't you keep your eyes closed?
I felt like I'm going to fall. Like, if I'm going to keep it closed for another minute, I'll probably be on the floor.
And that's scary, right? That starts, and you felt like that for almost 4 years?
Yeah. That made me super anxious.
Right? Anxious. And then it also starts to add to your behavior, right?
Yeah.
And so what we did, we went through and we started working on all these parts of the brain based on her tolerance. So did I start you standing up?
No.
Where did we start?
So literally, like, reclining, like laying back, like on a recliner.
Did that feel like it was tolerable?
Yeah.
Cool. And then we only had you for 4 days, so I was going to push you, right? I don't think it was so hard pushing your body. It was harder pushing your brain, and really sometimes, and you might not want to admit it, but that mindset. But you just took...
Absolutely.
Right? So by day 3, I think, did we have you standing?
Yeah.
Did we have you on the treadmill day 3?
Yeah.
So we do some work with the cardiovascular system because usually people are so out of shape. Because you told me you swam 30 laps, and you were fine that day. The next day you're just destroyed.
Yeah.
Right? So your cardiovascular system and neurological system can't calibrate based on that amount of work.
Right.
So for me, I knew that if I was doing work, we'd have to break it up. Right? There's only so many chunks that your system could handle of work, and that's how we space out our intensives. Right? So we would go 4 days. We went 4 times a day, roughly 30 minutes of work, 20 to 30 minutes of relaxation, and like anti-inflammatory support, laser PEMF, vagal nerve, and some other stuff. And we did that each day. Tell me how you felt each day.
So the first day I came in, it wasn't, again, I couldn't stand. So it was really good. The exercises I was totally able to tolerate because it was done on a very slow pace.
At your pace, right?
My pace.
Yeah, not the person next to you.
No.
Right? Not the online program per se.
That's it. So that's something I want to say. Like, usually you just get treated across the board, right? This is what we're doing. So specifically, that's why I loved it. Because, like, hey, you're going to be doing this today, that today. You know, it's not just, like, overall.
Yeah. Like, check
program.
this off the box, right?
Yeah.
So day 3, we got you on the treadmill, upright, working. We even put some incline, and we're checking heart rate. What did you think? What were you thinking in the beginning, and then by the end of the day, next day, which is today, how did your brain change? How did your symptoms change? How did your outlook change?
So the first day, you mentioned like, hey, by Wednesday, we want you on the treadmill. I was thinking like, oh no, I'm not doing that. I don't think so.
Not gonna happen.
Like, no, I wasn't running for 4 years, you know, like upright.
Yeah.
But I did it. And so the first time I was on the treadmill, I was really anxious. Mm-hmm. Like, I was like nervous. And I'm like, hey, I pulled through. It was like, what did we do, 3 or 5 minutes?
Yeah, like 5-8 minutes, something like that. Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like, okay, let's do it again and again. By today, I felt like I'm just walking on the street, like really good. Like, 0 anxious. I'm like, awesome. I'm doing it at home.
That's awesome. That is so cool. How'd you feel with the testing we did at the end?
I was so excited. Like, the results in just like 4 days are like drastic, you know?
Yeah, that was so cool. So I have goals on my end, right? From a clinician side, you have goals on your end from a patient side. You want to feel better, but you also want to know that things are getting better.
Right.
On my end, I've got to make sure those things change and that you feel like you're improving. Right. These weeks aren't designed to like totally fix things. They're designed to stabilize as much as possible in a short amount of time. Right. And they work really well. Right. And so we redid all of your testing. You didn't fog up the lenses again, right? There was no more anxiousness. You were able to keep your eyes closed, and your test scores showed significant improvement on the balance. Right. And the one we didn't talk about was our TAP, or our interactive metronome testing, right? From the beginning to the end, how did that feel? So, like, there's TAP. I think that you got to do, if you tap, like, before or after, it's going to be red, I think, before, yellow after, and you just got to keep, like, being on the green button. Yeah. Do one more thing. So we did one more exercise, and it, like, totally corrected it, right? Yeah. And now, so what we did is the last part of the day, we call it our discharge visit, right? So we review all of your results. We talk about goals, like where we started and where we ended. We talked about what we're going to do after you leave, and that's going to be those exercises were already emailed, so you got videos and things that walk you right through all the exercises. And then we gave you a 2-week, hey, go back, live life for 2 weeks, and let's check in, see how you're feeling, see how you're doing, get back to your normal routine, right? Because sometimes here, it's really easy to control for all these variables. When you get home, you will be on your exercise program. You've got your new mindset of I love standing.
Yeah, that's super important.
And so, one of the things that we did on that note, one night, because you were getting ready to stand the next day, I gave her homework of I love standing, saying that 100 times between the last visit today and the next visit tomorrow. And she did it. And even her husband was helping out. And did that help? Was that helpful?
Sure. Because I just saw such a difference in my mind shifted, nothing's gonna happen. Just stand,
Yeah. And so my goal there was to try to really apprehend that fear response, and it seems like it's worked pretty well.
Yeah, because I honestly, that fear was really bad.
Yeah. It's after 4 years of dealing with that, there's no way you're not going to have fear.
Yeah.
So every patient's a little bit different. They have different things that we got to work through, but that's why I love what I do, because every patient is different. It's like I can come to work, no 2 patients are the same. We might do similar exercises, but working through that case is so much different from person to person. And I'm just super excited that you got the results you were looking for. You were happy with everything, and I'm hoping you don't have to come back. Right? And so what we'll do is when we're done, we'll just schedule an appointment for 2 weeks out. We'll just have a phone call. Check right in. You're like, hey, these exercises are too easy. I need harder ones. That's what I'd like to hear. And then I'd like to hear that your function is super high and you're feeling better than you have in 4 years.
Okay. I just want to give a disclaimer. I honestly did that because I want to share, to the world that, please, if you have POTS, just do it. It doesn't hurt to try.
Yeah.
And I promise they're going to be excited, that they tried this.
Yeah. So, well, thank you so much, Toby. I'm so excited for the results you've gotten. Thank you for giving me a shot and giving us a shot here at Desert Brain and Spine. If you guys out there have any questions or you want to get in touch with us, desertbrainandspine.com, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all desertbrainandspine.com. YouTube's a little more information. I think that's where you found a lot of stuff. And then if you have any other questions, just set up a consultation. We'll walk you through it, and I'll talk directly with you and see if we can help you too. So, do you have anything else that you'd like to share?
No, thank you for having me.
It was my pleasure. It was our pleasure. We're lucky to have been able to work with you. So, all right, that's a wrap for this episode of the NeuroReset podcast. Thank you so much, and we'll see you guys next time.